Hello again. All the fuss about Angela Rayner buying and selling her council house and supposedly not being correctly entered on the electoral register is really very amusing when you consider what has been going on with those in charge of the Treasury in this country. In February 2020, Rishi Sunak started his stint as Chancellor of the Exchequer. What nobody knew at the time, though, was that he had a green card. He was technically a resident in the United States and a prospective immigrant. He owned a luxury flat in California and had been living in that country. For a year and a half, he was, theoretically, a permanent resident of the United States and he filed taxes there, while at the same time being in charge of the Treasury in Britain. His wife at that time was not domiciled in this country either, and therefore not liable to pay taxes in Britain. And while in this peculiar position, he was able to dictate the amount of tax which we paid. Anybody else think this was a very odd situation? In July 2022, he left the role of Chancellor, which was taken over by an Iraqi called Nadhim Zahawi. At the time that he was appointed Chancellor, he was being pursued by the Inland Revenue for millions of pounds and eventually reached a settlement with them, which included paying £1 million penalty for what was described as a careless mistake in his tax return. Imagine that, a man becomes Chancellor of the Exchequer, in charge of organising our taxes, while owing £3 or £4 million in taxes himself. Makes you think, doesn't it? Compared with these kinds of shenanigans, the sale of a little council house in the north of England seems a pretty trifling matter, really. I cannot help but wonder how and why we found ourselves in a position where two successive Chancellors of the Exchequer were of foreign extraction and had slightly dubious tax affairs, combined with overseas residence and a wife who was not domiciled in Britain. Did nobody at any stage say to themselves that this looked a little bit fishy and that it might be better to have somebody as Chancellor whose roots were firmly and unambiguously in this country and was paying all his taxes here and not being investigated by the Inland Revenue on the grounds that he owed millions of pounds to them in back taxes? Did that really not occur to anybody at all? If not, why not? Are we so hypnotised by skin colour and the desire to appear multicultural and cosmopolitan that this image is more important than making sure that somebody who is above reproach is in charge of the keys to the Treasury?